Hello, everyone. Today, I'll uncovered a game-changing shift in the buyer agent commission that's actually shocking the entire real estate market right now. So let's dive right into the information. Let me share with you here what I meant. Okay, in the recent change, okay, in the recent market. I'm so sorry. Let me set up this real quick. Okay, here you go. Right. So there is a lawsuit currently. I mean, already happened a long time ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, and now recently they coming to the very close to the end. It's not quite the end yet, but because of that lawsuit, there's a change in the buyer agent commission, and there's a chance that you might already hear about those changes. But in today's episode, I'm gonna talk to you more of the detail and what that means to the buyer as well as you as the seller, both the buyers and the seller. Okay, so let's dive right into the information. But first, let's go through the current commission structure so that we are on the same page. Okay, so with the current commission structure, there is a homeowner right here, right? She's thinking about buying a house. I'm sorry, selling a house. Typically they would go to a listing agent and discuss with him or her about the plan. All right. A part of that conversation will be a discussion between the price range, between the listing price, okay, how much the seller has to pay for the agent commission, and everything gonna be determined in the contract. Okay, so let's assume, fast forward. I mean, of course, there's something like the homeowner is gonna discuss couple interview couple agents to select the best one, and the agent gonna discuss about marketing strategy. That is not a part of this conversation. And today I'm gonna mainly focus on the commission structure. Okay, so let's say they come to an agreement and then determine that the listing agent gonna list the property for 6% commission, right? For 6% commission, right? The listing agents in typical situation, they're gonna start the listing process by putting the information of the property onto a system called MOS, the multiple listing service. All right. There's more detail into what he or she gonna put on the system as well. But today we're gonna talk about this. Okay, commission. All right. Normally, if they get 6%, they're gonna put on MOS for like 3% for the buyer agent commission, and 3% gonna be remaining for them, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is the one number, right? But this is as an example situation so that you can understand the current commission structure, right? Some of the agent put 2.5, some of the agent put 2. It depends on the listing agent, but this is just an example, all right? So this is the typical when they put 6%, 3% is advertised on MOS. That information is on MOS, and so that the buyer agent know how much they get paid if there is a buyer, right? That's exactly what it is, right? So when a buyer agent bring a buyer into the contract, close the deal, then the buyer agent get paid according to the amount that the listing agent disclosed in MOS. All right. So that is the current structure of the MOS, of the agent commission. And here's come the new commission. Like I said earlier, this change is because of the active lawsuit right now. They're very close to the end, but they haven't finalized yet. A lot of settlement money already proposed, but it's still not finalized yet. But as far for the practice coming, okay, this is a suggestion that is the required. Actually, it's not a suggestion anymore. It is a required for all the agent part of the realtor of the association of realtor to be participate with. Okay, and here's the change. So recall when I said about the listing agent putting onto the MOS, right? In the old commission structure, they're gonna put on the MOS the advertised the money the seller willing to pay for the buyer agent commission. Moving forward, this will be no longer the case. Okay, this will be no longer the case. No advertise on buyer about buyer agent commission whatsoever on the MMS on the multiple listing service. Okay, so there's two questions come in. Number one, how does the buyer agent get paid in this situation? Right? Because there's no advertise on MOS. How does the agent get paid? How much the buyer agent get paid? Right? There's no that information is unclear in this situation. And the second question is that whether the listing agent still have the 6% commission or not. Now that is, like I said, this is a very new thing, recent change, and will become active in August 17th of this year. So it's very, very close. Okay, and there's still a lot of things that all parties have to find out. Both the buyer agents, the buyer, the listing agent, the seller, right, have to find out to see which is the best option, right? So there's a lot of questions right now, but I'm gonna mainly focus on the buyer agent side now because they seem to be a more impacting party in this, right? How does the buyer agent get paid? Well, number one, it could be the negotiation between the listing agents and the buyer agent in that situation. Because maybe the listing agents still get paid 6%, all right? And therefore, they willing to pay buyer agent a portion of that as a part of compensation. Now, here's some note, okay? And I will summarize this note as well. The seller has to approve that payment, okay? So that is not just simple conversation between the buyer agent and the listing agents, right? Whatever the amount the listing agent willing to give up has to be approved by the seller, right? So that's number one way how they can get paid. And of course, yeah, like I said, it has to be approved by the seller. And of course, the next option is get paid directly from the buyer, right? Some of you may come, wait a minute, the buyer has to pay for the buyer agent commission now? Yes, right? Like you see earlier, the current commission structure, the buyer doesn't give the buyer agent the money or any part of compensation, right? Directly. It is indirectly through the purchase price, but that is another conversation that is not in scope of this video. But in this situation, with the new commission change, the buyer actually has the potential have to give the buyer agent commission in some form of compensation. All right. Now, how is the structure gonna be impacting the both party if that's the case, right? Obviously, the seller have one less channel to advertise for the compensation to the buyer, right? Does the seller has to continue paying 6% on the listing agent? That is a great question, and that is something that I want to bring up next slide, okay? But keep that thought in mind. Does the buyer has to pay whatever the amount the buyer agents demanding, right? How is that number determined? Right? Those are a lot of questions that make this situation, this update, a more relevant to a lot of people, right? Because everyone gonna buy a house, everyone gonna sell a house soon, right? So here's some note about the seller side, okay? So for the seller side, number one, you can still offer, this is one of the notes, okay? You can still offer the buyer agent commission. However, though, that number cannot be on MLS. It could be on any platform, on any other platform like social media and flyers and website that the listing agent has. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you cannot offer the compensation. Sometimes you may be thinking, as a seller, you may be thinking, offer that as a compensation for the buyer broker, for the buyer agent who is able to bring a buyer to you. Okay. And okay, now the next topic is that, like I said earlier, any compensation from the listing agents to the buyer agent, okay, has to be approved by you. Okay, it cannot be just a random number that the two agents discuss and agree upon. Okay, and it has to be a specific number. It cannot just be a random number that you don't agree. Okay, now an alternative option to, for example, some of the seller went, oh, that's good that I don't have to pay for the buyer agent commission anymore. But because the buyers potentially has to be responsible for um, the buyer agent commission, therefore it can be applied toward a buyer concession, right? You still be able to offer that buyer concession number on MLS, but it cannot be explicitly say that it is for buyer agent commission, because remember, no advertise on MLS about the buyer agent commission. All right. So those are some notes for the homeowners and if you are thinking about selling the house. Okay. What about the buyer agent side? Okay. There's some more note for the buyer agent side. Okay. So as a buyer agent and the buyer, before you are seeing the house as a buyer, before you see the house, you have to have a conversation with the buyer agent to talk about the specific amount of compensation, right? Either paid by you or by the seller. What is the amount? It has to be either a flat fee, $990, which we do have that program, by the way, or a fat or amount depend on the value of the property. Is it 1% or 2% or 3%, right? Or it has to be a flat number, let's say 5,000, 10,000. It has to be a specific number and determined upfront, okay, before you even go see any property. Because if you go see the property already, you assume that that person is working for you within a set time frame, right? So everything has to be set. You have to be determined how much you're willing to pay the buyer agent commission, how long does it take them to help you. You're going to be in the employment contract with them for how long, okay? In what situation you can terminate the contract, okay? So everything has to be predetermined before you go under contract. The agent, keep this in mind, this is for your benefit too as a buyer. The agent, your buyer agent commission cannot receive any compensation from any source that above the agreed amount between you and the buyer agent. Okay? So of course, if they get your approval, then that's great. Then they can get the extra. But if not, then they can't, right? Whatever the amount extra has to be towards the buyer agent, the buyer, okay? And everything here, the last bullet point, everything is negotiable, okay? It is by law, is negotiable between the buyer agent and the buyer, okay? The buyer agent cannot say, this is by law, you are required to pay me 2%. No, that's not true. That's not by law. It's maybe his or her fee. But of course, that fee can also be negotiable and between the two parties as well. You as a buyer and the buyer agent. Okay. At the end of the day, I want to bring up one point is this. Everything is negotiable in real estate. Okay. Everything is negotiable in real estate. Between the commission between the listing agents and the seller, already negotiable for a long time. Okay. For the buyer and the buyer agent, there hasn't been a conversation about the commission, but it's starting August 17. You're gonna have to be both party has to be more proactive on that. Okay, and that's gonna be the new thing that added to the conversation in real estate. Okay, as a buyer agent, I always try to protect my buyer interest first. And the way that we are going to this is we're going to discuss, I'm going to be even more negotiation. Right? Of course, I'm more than happy to discuss with the buyer about you as a potential buyer about my compensation structure, right? But of course, I'm gonna try to always getting the negotiation with the listing agents to see whether they are willing to give up some of their commission or not, and therefore you don't have to be responsible for that. That's how I do it, and hopefully it's gonna bring the benefit to the buyer in that situation. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching today's episode. I know it is not a typical conversation that we have about the real estate market, but I think this is going to be a big news for the next couple of weeks, and I want to discuss. I want to share that information with you to make sure that everyone is understand the situation. However, though, if you are not sure and if some of the information is still vague to you, feel free to text commission to 480-480-7948. And then we're more than happy to book a call and discuss more about that with you. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.